Hello and welcome to Jardin du Mayfair. Thank you for joining me here for another YouTube video. It's a world first yet again. 2024, I am on such a run with these, I hope it never ends. What have I got today? I've got the Audemars Piguet Remaster 2. It's the 15240SG.OO.A347CR.01. Thank you for those crazy model numbers. Guys, just a very quick one to say, please do hit that subscribe button. I am trying to grow this channel and up to 60% of you aren't subscribed. So if you could click that button, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. Let's get into it. From the minute I laid eyes on the newly released AP Remaster 2, I've been excited about it. If you're expecting my usual balance and perspective plus an occasional gripe about 30-meter water resistance on a perfectly reasonable watch, then this week I'm going to disappoint you, so I apologise in advance. That said, I do have a grizzle about the watch, but I'm going to save that for much later. Everything about this watch is my idea of horological heaven because it blends my two favourite things, mechanical watches and brutalist architecture. So before we even begin to settle in and go and poke around with the watch, I'm going to tell you that the Remaster 2 is easily my favourite choice AP for now. I say this fairly safe in the knowledge that I was not on the planet in 1972, but even then it's a close run race between this and the original Royal Oak for me. So a bit of background first. The original watch that the remaster is based on was a model released in yellow gold in 1960 and 1961. It was a reference 5159BA, of which only 7 were made. It had a silver dial and it was a smaller size 27.5mm. During the late 50s and early 60s, Audemars released a number of asymmetrical pieces, over 30 different models, which were completely innovative as they strayed far away from the round watch, square watch designs that predated them. They were a homage to brutalism, which was a beloved architectural style of the era, and also a celebration of optimism after decades of war and unrest. Notably, it was during this point in AP's history they began to introduce reference numbers and model ranges, as prior to the boom of the post-war years they were producing individual pieces rather than multiples of the same design. It's fascinating to me to put these pieces into historical context as they are immediately identifiable as mid-century modern designs. They are brutalist, simple, sleek, and much like the interiors and exteriors of the time, and the rejection of frills, flourishes, and fancy bits that detract from the purity of form. The remaster is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a modern recreation from the history books rather than an exact replica. It has been resized and reworked to suit 21st century wearers. The biggest difference here is the size, which of course is important to me because those 27.5mm watches wouldn't have done anything for me. The remaster of 2024 has increased in stature to 41mm with a very palatable thickness of just under 10mm. It's big enough to have incredible presence, but not so large that you notice its angular shape on the wrist. This is not a Ploprof situation, and the watch is just as comfortable as anything more conventionally shaped. Okay guys, time for some honesty. I've actually been fortunate enough to wear this watch on a few occasions and I think it's really cool. The case is an absolute masterstroke of precision machining. Its angles, lines and edges are completely sharp and refined even under exceptionally close scrutiny. The satin brush finish, which runs from left to right, gives a wonderfully 3D effect thanks to the natural shading that such defined faceting brings to the table. A polished bevel around the dial and crystal acts as both a frame and the only source of glint and glimmer on display. Now, what makes this AP's new kid on the block is that the metal is sand gold. It's the perfect choice for this watch. It's an 18-carat alloy made of mixing gold, palladium and copper to create a metal that is nothing short of spectacular, while at the same time being incredibly tricky to describe. It's almost like somebody tipped champagne over something distinctly titanium to give a warm tinted grey that is subtle and not remotely overpowering in the same way as other gold can sometimes be. Audemars describe it as hovering between white and rose gold, and while that's an exceptionally close description, it doesn't really do the alloy full justice, as in the metal it is both very strange and very attractive indeed. It changes colour in different lights, and on some occasion it looks virtually identical to steel, while at other times it appears to almost take on the iridescence of a golden South Sea pearl. A matching midnight blue alligator strap that is matte ices the cake on this one. The rectangular dial is not a solid piece. It is made from 12 individually radially sunburst brushed slivers to set into 12 triangular frame compartments. Its colour is described by AP as Blue Nuit Nuage 50, which translates as Blue Night Cloud 50. Let us once again avoid the tweediness and call it Midnight Blue, which has infinitely less pizzazz, but it does describe the colour perfectly. There is no loom, which for once I think is a good thing, because it would jar the dial design by adding something unnecessary, which is not what brutalism is all about. The radial brushwork does enough without any additional lighting required and creates a really interesting texture and display when viewed from under what I must reckon is the piece de la resistance of the watch, its faceted sapphire crystal. Just the crystal alone took AP 2 years of research and development to create and is faceted to mirror precisely the angles and shape of the case so that the design flows completely uninterrupted. More to the point, it is completely transparent and free from distortion regardless of the viewing angle, which is a feat in itself, so definitely another bravo to AP on that one. The movement, which can be viewed through the sapphire caseback, is caliber 7129 and has essentially been lifted straight out of the beloved Royal Oak Jumbo. It is an extra thin, tried and tested workhorse that gives a 52-hour power reserve and at under 3mm thick is partially responsible for the slim nature of the watch. All well and good. That said, its presence does bring me quite neatly to my one and only complaint about the watch. The movement doesn't fit the case. It's a round caliber in a rectangular hole, and as a result the crown stem is long and has to traverse the internal open space on the right side of the watch in order to engage with the movement. This is a tiny gripe because it still works perfectly and feels sturdy for sure. But when you've gone so far researching and developing a drop-dead gorgeous and completely unique watch, I feel like the inside should have been designed with as much diligence and attention to the outside, particularly given that AP is very busy advertising cutting-edge performance. That said, I do concede that this would probably have driven up the cost quite significantly, as perfection on every level always comes with a significant price hike. Case in point, the last watch I reviewed that had a purpose-built movement, which was redesigned to fill the case, had 6 times the retail price of the Remaster 2. So I suppose there is that to consider. All in though, my gripe does not detract from me absolutely loving this watch. I often say this, but I truly believe I am very spoiled doing this job. So for me to see a watch that is completely brand new, totally wacky, and something different, it always is going to be a box ticker for me in a sea of Royal Oaks and Submariners. Don't get me wrong, they're the most popular watches for a reason, but I love it when something new and unique comes to market. Could this be the start of AP bringing back a load of old school cool watches? I would love if they did. That would be Really cool. Now, the meat and potatoes, this watch is the first one, so I'm going to call it as POA, okay? Because the truth is the price is extremely difficult to set at the moment, being that there is only one, and it's here at Jardin du Mayfair. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think of the wacky AP Remaster 2. Is it your cup of tea? I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And thank you so much for joining me here at Jardin du Mayfair for another World's First review.